evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of Season 64 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. It's race number 9, playoff race number 1. That's right, last week we set up our 13-driver playoff grid. They are set to take to Talladega here tonight in the 2-race first round. Only 8 drivers will be moving on. 5 drivers will be eliminated, and we have a full field here tonight, so a lot of points, a lot of positions will be left on the table. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Michael Norman, Kyle Matthews. Guys, the playoffs have begun. Only 2 races to get it done to move on to the next round, and more often than not, we see most of the playoff drivers, if not all of them, treat this almost like a must-win situation because, hey, you win this week, you're locked in regardless of what happens next week. That could be interesting into how it translates to the overall race here this evening.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of aggression here. I mean, only 2 races in a round. That is crazy right there. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of pressure on everybody tonight that's looking to move on to the next round.
We got Jeffrey Elliott lining up on the pole position for the second week in a row. Dunn LaPrade, who also started well last week, going to have good starting track position. He's, of course, coming in with a lot of momentum, getting his first win of the series last week, locking him into the playoffs. That win didn't necessarily count towards a playoff spot, as he actually would have pointed his way up into the top 12 after the victory, so end up getting those extra 5 bonus points as well to add to his total. We'll be showing you what that playoff grid looks like here in just a moment, but we'll take you through the 41
Your face
car.
is a grid?
It is a grid, but it doesn't start. And these are the 41 drivers that are going to take the green flag here tonight.
What a start we're on.
Jeffrey Elliott lines up on the pole position with Dunn LaPrade on that front row. Ron Hagel and Robert Breedlove going to make up row number 2. Joe DeSpirito shares row number 3 with Dennis McCarthy. Doug Kulik and Jeremy Jeffries going to be in row 4. And then Randy Waugh,
Luigi,
and Mike Mangialardi, they are the top 10. Only one playoff driver starting in the top 10. You got to go back to 11th for the next playoff driver. That would be Donnie Garrett. Another playoff contender, Ulysses Sandoval, will join him in row 6. Richard Martin going to be with Josh Metallic. Metallic, a playoff contender this season. They're back in row 7. Row 8 is going to be the regular season champion, Brian Schilling, and the leader of the playoff standings coming into tonight. He's in row 8 with Pat McCarskey. Row 9 going to find Keith Bynum and playoff contender Craig Hagley, and then Greg Lovell and playoff driver Rodney Sullins. They will complete the top 20. Denny Carroll, he's back in 21st with playoff contender Kelly Causey in 22nd. The only repeat winner on the season's defending champion Tim Nofsker at playoff contender as well, alongside of Bob Seminara back in row 12. In row 13 finds John Godfrey and Jessica Schulten. Greg Palmer and Nate Balser back in row 14. Your top 30 completed with playoff contender Grant Wesley and Graham McDonald. Chris Emery back in the field tonight. He's in row 16 with playoff contender Terry Bombard. Dante Ricky and Bernie Miles back in row 17. Row 18 finds Glenn Harris and playoff contender Chuck McClure. Row 19 will be Cy Jones and playoff driver Mark Paglia. Bob Dixon, who got his first career win here this season. He's a playoff contender, got in through the wild card spot. He's back in row 20 with Brian Rawson, and Tom Dixon will complete the 41-car field here tonight. 66 laps, Talladega Superspeedway. Hang on tight because the playoffs in Season 64 have begun.
Playoffs?
The playoffs.
Dunn got a good start.
Yes, he did.
I don't know if Jeffrey was sleeping on that one, but
Dunn LaPrade looking to carry the momentum from last week's win into this first race.
And he will stay alongside Jeffrey Elliott here on the back straightaway, so that middle line's going to get that momentum. Dunn will clear for the lead. Well, maybe not quite. I thought he was going to.
When it comes to this track, me and you both know what we would have to do. You know, we've raced on this version of the track before. You know that the inside lane, technically really, you want to, just like what he's doing right now, keep your tires right on that dotted white line, because that's where the grip is, and that's where you're not going to push up as much off the corners.
Well, you don't have much of an opportunity to do it here with the third line coming, but Michael, I'm sure you remember back in the day, they used to run double wide right between those hash marks. They'd run side by side and share that middle groove. They don't do that as often now because usually that third line's got a lot of momentum and you can't fit 3 lanes of traffic in that small amount of space, but that was something they used to do to all be able to get that optimal grip and get that run off the corner.
All right, well, now let me ask you another question, okay? Now, you're Jeffrey Elliott. You're the leader, right? You can dictate where you put your car going to the corner.
Right.
So if you were to do that and put your car where you're, instead of your right sides, it's your left sides on the, like essentially like they're moving the inside lane up half a groove. Now, there's no fault in that, right? It's everyone, they got to adapt to where you put your car as the race leader.
I think Elliott hit the apron there a little bit, but
Or would that still
kept
be
it together.
considered? Or would that still be considered like a jerk move?
I don't think it would necessarily be considered a jerk move. I think the problem would be if you try running that hash mark, you might find yourself getting split off the corner 3 wide because you might leave enough of a lane open on the inside, and you know there's going to be a line barreling on the top side at some point.
the line to be right now is on the inside, surprisingly enough. That
Well, 'cause you see
middle
how they-
groove.
I don't
You
know
see
what
how they
happened to that
drift
middle
up.
and third line. They just completely evaporated all of a sudden.
At that third lane.
Brad leading the second line. There's Jeremy Jeffries, former champion, had the heartbreak last week. He was in line to at least point his way into the playoffs, but had an engine expire on him, so now he falls into the same category as a number of big-name drivers that missed out on the playoffs of just trying to end out the season with as many checkered flags as possible. I mean, the agony and the ecstasy, right? You want, obviously, to have that pressure of contending for a championship, but at the same time, when you don't have that added pressure, it makes it a little bit easier. You feel a little bit freer in your movements, be a little bit more aggressive to kind of maybe have the bring home the steering wheel, the checkered flag mentality. You don't have to really think about points.
And there's something else that these guys could be racing for as well. Here in a couple of weeks, there is an all-star race coming up, and
Good point.
a lot of these guys are looking forward to locking
Wait, there's an
themselves into
all-star race
that.
coming up?
Yeah, during the off season.
Hmm.
Yep, we got the Super Speedway All-Star race that'll be coming up once this season concludes. In between this and the start of the 61st season, as Jeffrey Elliott, I think he kind of did what you were talking about there, Michael. Shaded up a little bit to that middle groove, and he opened up the door. Joe DeSpirito's going to drive on by.
He was running the middle lane with Joe, and then Joe dived to the inside.
Well, that 24 of DeSpirito, he's had a good couple of weeks here. Finished, I believe, third last week, and then he won 2 weeks ago, and just has all the momentum going right now, and he currently has the lead.
Missed out in the playoffs, ended up having some bad luck beginning of the season, and then missed a couple of weeks, was not able to get up high enough in the standings for his win to count towards a spot as far as a wild card is concerned, getting up inside the top 20 in the standings. And now here comes Jeremy Jeffries, up on that third lane with help from a couple of playoff contenders, actually a trio of playoff contenders there. Donnie Garrett, Brian Schilling, who won their way into the postseason, Craig Hagley, who pointed his way in there in the 82, and I think I mentioned this last week, Craig's been kind of quiet this season, quietly consistent. He hasn't really done anything flashy, but he's been having consistent finishes inside the top 10, inside the top 15, and that consistency got him up there into the top 5 in overall points. Whoa, we got a warper back there. I think that might have been the 63 of Keith Bynum on the inside line, but I kind of feel like this playoff system, it rewards drivers that are aggressive and get to victory lane, obviously, but I feel like it also really rewards the consistent drivers, especially when you look at that final round where the driver that accumulates the most points in the span of 2 races is not just a one-and-done finale.
The 111 is
Speaking of being consistent,
Oh, there it is. See, I told you.
wow, I don't know how they kept that together.
We nearly just had the 1,111 car right there.
Yeah.
I was just about to make that joke.
Man.
But you mentioned consistency. There's a car right there in the picture that's been extremely consistent. I'm not gonna say who.
you gonna jinx it?
But
hey, you almost jinxed him last week, okay? You broke the curse. He finished 5th, so the streak stayed alive. He's talking about Brian Schilling. There, I'll take the commentator curse for you.
Thank you.
Hey, but I did actually look back. Brian Schilling did set a RTG record as the only driver to ever finish in the top 5 in every single one of the regular season races. So well done on him. We'll see if he can continue that streak here into the playoffs, but just to do it in 8 straight races. And
8 straight super
yeah,
speedway races.
exactly. That is a tremendous feat. Well, we promised you we were going to show you what the playoffs looked like coming into this, and I completely forgot to bring up the graphics, so here it is.
Wow, Seth.
Brian Schilling.
Call yourself a freaking commentator.
Well, you know, I at least made good on my promise. Here it is for all to see. Schilling, Nofsker, Wesley, McClure right now would be the top 4. Sandoval, Paglia, Garrett, LaPrat above the cut line. But look at how close it is there. Hagley, Sullins, Dixon, Metallic, Causey, all easily here tonight. Wouldn't even have to win their way up above the cut line. They could point their way up above the cut line because, as mentioned, full field here this evening. 41 points up for grabs, not counting the bonus points for laps led or winning the race.
Boy, they are going at it up front. They've been bouncing off each other a couple of times, and I'm just glad to see they're keeping it together so far.
Been a lot of movement out of the cars up here at the front, and of course a lot of their energy coming from the midway portion of the field, the rear of the field. I mean, we are 3 wide, gosh, what is that, maybe 7, 8, 9 rows back right there from the 7th position on back. Well, actually, I think it's more than 9 rows. I'd say we'd have about maybe 10 rows, 11 rows of 3 wide.
10, 11.
Oh, boy,
man.
and...
Oh, no, there they go. Craig Hagley, bumper grabbed off of Schilling, and the massive one on the back straightaway.
Done LaPrat involved. I see Metallic spun and got away with it.
Now, what I'm seeing, though, is not a lot of contact. Looked like a lot of spinning, but I didn't see any heavy impact.
Well, if Craig or the 63 would hit the brake for a second.
The sheet metal is just sticking. It's latching on.
Boy, but that whole thing was inevitable, the way they were going at it up front. And, boy, as many cars as we saw spun out, it's amazing, you know, at least from what we can tell. Looks like nobody got any major damage, but
yeah.
We'll see here in a lap or 2.
Yeah, we'll be looking at some replays here. I mean, I wasn't able to see way back in the field. There may have been a couple of drivers that might have gotten down to the inside wall, but for the most part, from what I could tell, it looked like just a lot of spinning, and if any contact, very light contact. I can document that the 79 of Nate Balser is actually retired out of the race, so maybe that might be one of the drivers that did take a hard hit in this wreck. We'll take a look and see, but this was right up at the front of the field. Craig Hagley had crossed the line the last time by in 4th. He was side by side for said position with Joe DeSpirito when this happened off of turn 2. It almost looks like Brian was just running behind the line that the 77 Donnie Garrett was running, and in doing so, he kind of pinched down DeSpirito, who was pushing up, and then as Hagley's trying to follow Brian up to that 3rd line, they may have gotten the dreaded bumper grab. Everybody there towards the rear of the field looked like they all got on the brakes. We didn't have anybody come flying in. Let's follow the 17 of Chuck McClure, who's in the middle of the pack here. Saw he was spun out. See if anybody around him ended up getting some significant damage.
See cars bouncing off each other, but don't really see a lot
Yeah,
against
there was
the wall.
Chris Emery there, right side of the screen up there, that blue machine, he was headed down towards the inside wall, but I'm not sure if he even hit it. Let's focus on the 38 of Rodney Sullins, who was a little bit further back. We're kind of picking drivers in certain portions of the field, try and see if we can get a little FOV in the different areas of the pack of those involved and what kind of contact they sustained. Up at the front, middle of the pack didn't look so bad. A lot of playoff contenders were involved in this, though. Chuck McClure, I saw Kelly Causey, Josh Metallic, there's Ulysses Sandoval.
A lot of drivers are going to need new tires after this.
Yes.
That might be it.
Let's find the 79 of Nate Balser because he retired out of the race. He's up in the 3rd lane, middle of the pack. Gets spun around after contact from Brian Rawson, but I don't see anything here that would take him out. Oh!
Right in front of Bob Dixon.
Oh, and then he gets hit by Mark Paglia as well.
Couple of hits like that. You know, these cars are durable, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
Yeah, I would be a little bit concerned. It didn't look like a really hard hit, but I would be a little concerned about potential aero damage on that 143, one of our playoff drivers, and Bob Dixon. That follow-up hit there from Mark Paglia also didn't look like much, but it is with the front end of the race car. And to your point, Michael, these cars are very durable. We've seen them take some pretty good shots, whether it's contact car to car or contact car to wall, and still be able to be up to speed. It's just a big question mark, right, of like the point of angle, the amount of speed carried, as to how much damage they actually really do sustain. And we really don't know that until they get back up to full song on a restart. So a handful of drivers, looks like 4 drivers stayed out the first lap, and they have since come to pit road. All the drivers that did pit on the first lap of caution now cycle up to the front. Donnie Garrett, who is the leader under that yellow, is going to resume the lead on this upcoming restart with Joe DeSpirito, Jeremy Jeffries, Jeffrey Elliott, and Robert Breedlove going to be the top 5. The 79 of Nate Balser is documented as out of the race. The 10 of Terry Bombard has lost a lap. I'm not 100% certain, but I believe he may have fallen out of the server and returned, because I did actually notice the chat bubble down the bottom of the screen light up there. So I believe he may have fallen out, come back in. He will probably get that lap back. So we should have the 40 remaining drivers on the lead lap when we go back green flag racing. An interesting point of note, I don't know if this means anything, but one of those 4 drivers that stayed out and led that lap before coming to pit road, giving up a ton of track position for this restart, was the regular season champ, Brian Schilling. So I guess, you know, that moniker, every point matters. Maybe a contingency plan here for if something happens here in this race. That 1 extra point could be very valuable.
And just a 2-race round, yeah, that could be a pivotal.
Yes, it could.
So we should, I believe, get the lights out on the pace car this next time by. We'll give you again another look at what the playoff grid looks like coming into this race. Again, nobody is locked into the next round. The green numbers indicate the drivers that made it into the playoffs through wins. The other drivers all pointed their way in with the white numbers. And if any of these 13 drivers go to victory lane here tonight, they don't even really have to show up next week. They're locked into that round of 8, moving on to battle for the championship in the next round of the playoffs. And a lot of drivers, when we end up usually, I think there's been maybe 1 or 2 rare occasions where a non-playoff driver wins the first playoff race. More often than not, the percentage is super high of a playoff driver winning the first playoff race. And I usually ask them the same old question. I usually get the same answer of, you know, how much pressure does that take off of you here for the upcoming race, the elimination race? And the answer is always the same, just huge weight lifted off the shoulders. So you gotta think that most of these playoff contenders have the mentality of win or bust here. If it doesn't work out, see what your situation is for next week in the elimination race.
It's always a great feeling not having anything to worry about in the next race, especially at a super speedway where it's just so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but the question is, I mean, even if you don't win, if you're high enough in the points to know that you're not going to be eliminated, you still get the same kind of feeling.
Yeah, but
there's no buts up here.
But with only 2 races,
Stop saying but. I told you there's no buts up here.
Therefore, with 2 races, that doesn't fit, but I didn't listen to say the other word. But no, Michael, I mean, if you think about it, though, you know, if you have 29, 30, 31 drivers showing up each week, okay, you know, maybe you can accumulate enough points that you feel safe going to the elimination race, we've had full fields. I mean, these are a lot of points you can gain or lose in the span of one race, and with only 2 races, I honestly feel even any driver that finishes 2nd, 3rd, 4th here tonight, they can't feel safe. There's no way they can feel safe going into the elimination race next week, because the points they gain here tonight, they can just as easily lose next week and fall out of the top 8.
Well, that's true. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe it's just me then.
Maybe it is. If you were out on the racetrack, you might have a different philosophy. Getting ready to go back green. Lap 14 will be completed. Lap 15 on the board. Donnie Garrett will get us back under the green. Good restart for both lanes. Despirito hung right with him door to door as they hit the stripe. Now it's a matter of who can get through 1 and 2 with the better pusher. Garrett's got Jeremy Jeffries. Despirito's got Jeffrey Elliott. Looks like momentum on the bottom. Does the 77 shift up to the middle? Yes, he does.
Didn't even recognize that was Jeremy Jeffries right there. Every time I think of him, think of that Monster Energy car. So
yeah,
different look for him this week.
You know, I'm almost wondering if maybe he decided to break out a different paint scheme for a little bit of good luck here. The Monster Energy car just, I don't know, there's just been random stuff that's happened to it. There's been 2 engine failures that he's had during the course of this regular season, including last week in the finale, so bringing out an oldie but a goodie, that Goldfish paint scheme.
A couple of races ago right here at Talladega, too.
Yep.
Well, I do love me some Goldfish crackers, so I do approve of that paint scheme.
Yeah, the snack that smiles back, and maybe Jeremy will be smiling after tonight. He's winless so far this season. And there was a point where Jeremy Jeffries, near contact between him and Donnie Garrett, but there was a point where Jeremy Jeffries had 3 wins in a row, not consecutively, but 3 wins in a row at the venue that we're going to next week, the track where pretty much everything's going to be determined. The elimination races, the championship ultimately going to be decided at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, and of course a former champion in the series as well.
I think Randy Waugh had a bit of an issue. I thought he was going to open up the door for the 6 and was going to make it 4 wide, but they thought better of it.
How about Brian Rawson in that 6 car? Was a multi-time winner a couple of seasons ago. Made it into the playoffs. Actually competed in the Final 4. He's a driver that likes to start out back. He started 40th here this evening, and it's taken him... Oh, Lord, I'm going to stop talking about him.
Yeah, please.
Man, I don't know how they kept that together.
I don't either. I mean, he had his right front into the left rear of Robert Breedlove. They should have made contact and didn't.
I think they did make contact.
Stop talking about people, Seth.
I should. But no, I'm going to say it, though. I'm going to credit him. I mean, he's, 17 laps, and he's made it up into the top 5. So checking on our telemetry, looks like everybody is in this lead pack. Oh, actually, nope, correction. Bob Dixon way back here with his brother Tom Dixon. Maybe this is by design, but remember that 143 did take a shot into Nate Balser with the front end of his race car, so I don't know if this is seeing what's up ahead and not really wanting to be a part of it, or if that car is off the pace. If that's the case, that is one of our playoff contenders.
He might be in the safest place on the track right now.
He could very well be. Bernie Mobb stuck in the middle, 3 wide there. That's Pat McCarskey to his outside. Keith Bynum on the bottom. Grant Wesley just up ahead there in that middle line in the 88. One of our drivers that won his way into the postseason. Bob Seminara right there with him as well. Looks like at least up here towards the front, they've settled it to double wide. They're still scattered 3 wide outside of the top 20. Robert Breedlove trying to lead that second groove. There's Dennis McCarthy to the inside there. Good run for the 024, the UPS machine. Fashioned after a UPS truck, even to the gray roofing, supposed to indicate the sunroof that the UPS delivery trucks have.
Like, there's a lot of red in the top 6.
There is. Coca-Cola, Budweiser, Motorcraft, and the Alabama Tide. Got Dante
they
Ricky
settled
back
it
there in
down
that
to-
Canada Dry machine. He had a great run going last week. He played a pivotal part into Dunn LaPrade winning that race. He was the main drafting partner that Dunn had for the latter portion of that race. Got left out to dry when that inside line started moving, but he had a strong run going in that one and looking good here in this one tonight.
Well, they settled it down to just 2 lanes right now, and see how long it takes for them to go 3 wide once again here.
So listening or watching this battle happening 2 by 2, I should save this music for when they're 3 wide again, but I have some epic music that's playing in the background just waiting for disaster to happen, and it fits so perfectly.
Look at this, Michael. Randy Waugh
Luigi.
on the top, going for the lead. Woo. Jeremy
Jesus.
pushing up there
As
through the
soon
center
as
of the
you-
corner.
As soon as you focus back on the front, that's what happens.
We're good, though. And it looks like, I was going to say, I thought that middle line was going to have the momentum at the stripe, but Robert Breedlove jumped up to the 3rd lane. Randy's going to jump up there as well.
Boy.
Yeah, I don't know if that was such a great thing because there's only 3 cars out there.
That killed both lanes, and now the momentum shifts back to the bottom once again.
Well, it took about a lap for him to go 3 wide again.
Yep. Well, I talked about it last week. The car, the setup and everything allows you to get such a tow and be able to have a tremendous amount of momentum. You want to take it somewhere. Consider this week, the agendas are all different now. You got drivers that obviously they want to win this race to advance in the playoffs, but you got a bunch of drivers that aren't in the playoffs. They're not battling for a championship, so now it's win or bust. They can be aggressive, they can make moves, and with that being said, not quite maybe as hesitant to step out of line for a 3-wide move when they've got that draft.
Yeah, but this really isn't the point in the race where these guys need to be making aggressive moves. I mean, we're not even halfway through. We still have a couple pit stops to go. I think they'd be a little bit more patient right now, but
We got a while until that pit stop you're talking about as well, because with that caution coming out, we didn't go back green until lap 15, so we're looking still another 10-plus laps before they'd have to start thinking about pit road again. Donnie Garrett continuing to show the way. He's about to lead his 10th lap of the night. Talk about points, how important they are. Bonus points equally just as important, and that 1 bonus point for leading the most laps could be a difference maker by the time we calculate up the points and find out who's moving on in the Elite 8 at the conclusion of next week's elimination race at BSR. Update on Bob Dixon, Tom Dixon. I feel now it is more that the 143 is off the pace. They have dropped nearly 20 seconds behind the lead pack. If they were running still about 6 seconds, 7 seconds behind, I think they were just kind of hanging back, waiting to see what happens. But being that far back, I feel like they are more than likely the 45 just trying to keep the 143 from going a lap down for as long as possible. Could have our first playoff driver in trouble here in this first round. The Cinderella story, Bob Dixon getting that first win of his career in this series. And he may be looking next week, depending on what happens here in the second half of this race, as potentially one of those must-win scenario drivers next week.
that outside line working well together. 84. Well, as soon as I say that, the 6 looked to the outside for a split second.
Not sure if he looked to the outside or if maybe just didn't line up the bumpers there as they were going through the tri-oval, because he's getting shoved by Tim Nofsker. And I saw the 74 of Dunn LaPrade jump up to that third lane. I think he's getting out of Dodge. I think he saw that movement up here and he's saying, nope, I'm good. I'm going to hang back here a while, and there
there's
goes
the
Demar.
43.
No caution.
Single car incident, it looks like.
Richard Martin going around on the back straightaway off of turn number 2. May have tapped that inside wall with the left rear of his STP Pontiac, but doesn't look like he hit it all that badly. The tough thing for him, though, is yellow flag did not come out, so he's going to be a long ways back from the rest of the field. With everything we've seen up here, that might not necessarily be a bad
Someone's
thing.
game froze. They were stuck up against the wall, turn 4, if you want to look back and see.
Oh, I'll bet.
Schilling.
Was it Schilling, maybe? Yeah, I mean, he's
think it
back
was.
here.
Ooh, now he needs a caution.
Yep. It's another of our playoff drivers. Came into the playoffs as the overall points leader. Ended up getting bonus points for a victory, but also ended up getting valuable bonus points for winning the regular season championship. That's why he came in as the #1 seed. We've had a couple of moments here that very likely should have been yellows and weren't, so if you're Brian Schilling, if you're Richard Martin, I wouldn't be pushing the panic button just yet.
There's a panic button?
Well, actually, I'm not exactly sure. Oh, speaking of actually, I don't know what the segue was going to be, but it just made me, for some reason, it made me remember. We were talking last week. Kyle had a potential teaser, but we didn't have anything official. We can make the announcement now. In Season 65 of the Talladega Challenge Series, we will be swapping mods. You'll be seeing these drivers piloting Xfinity cars as RTG will be moving over on Thursday nights to the NXS 20 CTS Physics cars, and I gotta be honest, I've not driven those cars on a super speedway for a long time. I don't really know what the hitbox is like for them, so that will be a new one. We haven't seen them drive the Xfinity cars before here, to my knowledge, in RTG. They've driven trucks, they've driven cup cars, they've driven these historic Aero 88s, but never an Xfinity mod, so that should be interesting at the start of Season 65.
Xfinity cars with CTS physics. That's
Yeah.
quite a combination.
Well, I mean, these Aero 88 cars are CTS physics. They don't look like trucks, but they're drafting like them.
And they drive like them.
Yeah, they do.
Well, Seth, it just seems like maybe we need to have a little test session.
Need a
of
little
our
test
own to
session
test
so we
hitbox.
know what they're experiencing. Yeah, maybe.
Yep. Side by side.
A little photo finish there to complete lap 29 between Garrett and Dante Ricky.
And Brian Schilling wasn't in 5th spot.
That's true. Looks like Tom Dixon no longer able to really help his brother out. And Demar is about to catch Brian Schilling, so those two will be able to draft with each other in hoping that the field does not catch them here and put them off the lead lap. Dante got clear on that middle groove, jumps down in front of Donnie Garrett. And look at that middle line surge as they head through the trioval. Now Brian Rawson will pull up alongside for the top position, being pushed by the defending champion, two-time winner on the season, Tim Nofsker.
Let's see if Dante can stay out here as they're coming up on.
Gosh!
Oh boy.
Brian Rawson, he was pinching Dante down when they came out of 2, and then he came down and door banged off the 77. That could have really been bad. We've already had one wreck that was right up at the front of the field inside the top 5 and swept up almost the entire field of cars. Don't want it to happen
here
again.
comes
Pit stops. Yep.
I was just about to say, like, guess who was in the top, or who was in the top 10, and that was going to be the 88, the 088, and
We got caution. Caution's out. That's Keith Bynum over in the trioval. Terry Bombard, John Godfrey as well.
So now here's a question: the cars that just came down pit road, do you drive through or take service?
If you've crossed the commitment line, you take service. If the caution came out before you cross the line, then you drive through. And I think everybody from this group did get across the commitment line before that red flag was displayed by the pit road official. And these guys, this saves them. Pace car not caring about driving through other drivers. I know it's been a while since you've done sim racing, Kyle, but Michael, have you ever had like a heart attack where you think somebody's plowing you and it's just the pace car driving through you?
Yes, I have.
I have nearly rage called out somebody thinking that they plowed me and it ended up being the pace car.
At least this isn't NR 2002.
Oh, if it was NR 2002, then we would have half the field gone right there on the back straightaway.
Everybody's mad at Brett Bodine.
It's all Brett's fault.
Poor Brett.
So I don't know if this was in relation to the drivers that were pitting or if these were drivers that did not make the pit party, but this is what brought out the yellow. Glenn Harris there and Bynum trying to shoot up the middle.
That was a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
And then, bam, hard off the outside wall. Poor Terry's just like, I'm here, guys.
Let's get an aerial view of this, because it looked like the 8 of Glenn Harris was moving up to give room to the drivers in front of him that were pitting. He also slows a bit. Bynum is to his right rear at this point, and yeah, it just looks like the 8 kept coming up. Yeah, it's 2 big shots right there for both Bynum and John Godfrey. But on the racing surface, so that brought out the yellow. And let's watch real quickly here. I believe one of the last cars of the group that came to pit road was the 197 of Pat McCarskey. Keep an eye on the entrance of pit lane. We're going to do it a little bit slow here as far as the replay is concerned. And keep an eye on the left side of your screen. There's a race official back behind the wall. There you see him. We'll focus back here on some of these other drivers. Now watch at the time that race official displays the red flag. You can see the commitment line up there just past the blue wall. And I believe everybody from this group is across it right there. Right there. Yep, Mangialardi's already crossed it and the flag hasn't been displayed. Now it's been displayed. So yeah, all those drivers would have been able to take service. And that actually benefits them because now with everybody else coming to pit road, they're going to be able to cycle up to the front. Kelly Causey looks like he's going to end up being the race leader because of that.
It's like Bob Dixon will get the free pass. Even though we've seen he's a bit damaged and off the pace, so...
We'll have to see about Terry Bombard as well. Bombard, we mentioned about the fact that he had actually fallen out of the server. They did not add his lap back when we went back green, so he was still 1 lap down. He was involved in that incident, so I don't know if that would waive his eligibility for being one of the free pass cars or not. He and Bob Dixon were the only 2 drivers 1 lap down, and 2 drivers do get the free pass, so we know Dixon's going to get the lucky dog. Jury's still out whether Terry is also going to get the free pass to put all of the remaining 39 drivers on the lead lap. I say 39 drivers because we did have another driver retire out of the race after that hard hitting the outside wall. Keith Bynum has retired from the event, joining Nate Balser. Well, we got the opportunity. Let's shout out the people that are in our chat here. Sure to say hello to us. We always keep track of the YouTube chat during these broadcasts. We got Al Sullins in our chat here saying, all right, 38, got to make some noise. It's louder up front. It's definitely been very noisy really at the front here this evening. A lot of movement. D Young in our chat there as well. And also, we got BRD417 cheering on Dunn LaPrade, who's looking for his 2nd win in a row.
675-309 person.
I've also been told, and he's correct, Kyle, when you said there was a lot of red up at the front, I ushered Randy Waugh's car into that red brigade, and I've been told that Tide car is crimson. So
Yes.
yep,
Alabama
it's
Crimson.
not red, it's crimson. Good call out, Al. All right, so Terry is going to get the free pass along with Bob Dixon. So all our remaining 39 drivers will be on the lead lap on this upcoming restart. Jeremy Jeffries is actually going to be the race leader. Looks like Kelly Causey stayed out for a lap lead and then came to pit road. So another of our playoff contenders getting that valuable bonus point, though giving up a ton of track position in return when we go back green. Chris Emery will share the front row with Jeremy. Then Denny Carroll in the new Buffalo Bills livery in that 41 will be alongside of Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Donnie Garrett, who has led the most laps tonight so far, going to line up in the 5th position with Ron Hagelin completing that 3rd row. Lights out, Lucky Dogs go around, and we'll be going back green just past halfway.
Lights out, but I wasn't punched in the face.
We mentioned all the red up front. I was just informed that tonight you'll be able to see it at around 3 a.m. if you're up that. If you're going to be up that late.
3 a.m.
We got the blood moon tonight, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lunar eclipse. So yes, even more red.
What time's that supposed to be at?
3 a.m.
3 a.m. So it's one of those 3 a.m. moments.
It's one of those. It's one of those things where it's I want to see it, but at the same time I could be sleeping.
I'm wide awake during that time, so I should be able to see it if I remember.
Depends how amped up I am after a Fortnite session.
Yeah.
Little birdie told me they're showing about a can and a half.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Said it may change, but right now it's a can and a half.
Can and a half. Okay, that's interesting because I would have thought it would have been a can. Oh, well, okay, about maybe 11 laps, yeah. So yeah, that does make sense. My calculator only works 50% of the time. And look at all the cars clutching. Chief indicator when you see the car bogged down onto the racing surface and then pop back up, that means they've engaged the clutch, shut off the engine, and then when they pick the throttle back up, the car pops up into the air, and I think we saw just about everybody inside the top 10, 15, 20 all doing that there through 3 and 4. Oh, we got a spin in the back there! Doug Hewlick just got spun by the 28 of Mark Paglia, and I don't think the cautions come out.
I don't know how.
I think we're still going green.
I guess they are.
All right, looks like we're waving it off.
Yeah, they're waving it off.
Okay, the pace car did come back out. Okay. I didn't see the lights come back on the caution lights on the outside of the racetrack, so I thought that maybe they actually didn't throw the yellow flag out again. That's an extra lap that they'll be able to pace. Let's see if we can find out what happened there. I'm almost wondering if the clutching games might have caught up to the middle of the pack, because the 23 was the one I saw that got spun. Let's see. Paglia is the car behind him. Oh, they all stacked up, yeah. There was about a car length of space between Hewlick and McClure, and when he closed it up, then it slowed up that whole line.
In a way, that is kind of like the Clutchers Brigade catching up to them.
I mean, watch this off of turn 4. We'll go to the chopper cam. Watch this off of turn 4. Look at the distance.
Helicopter chopper
from the 23 to the 17. Now up ahead you got Grant Wesley.
Yeah. Grant then just suddenly went up and then slowed down.
And then slowed down, and everybody in reaction.
Yeah, that's a whole clutching thing, and I don't really know how I would call that.
Saw Rodney Sullins, Chuck McClure, Jessica Shelton all spun around back there. I'm assuming everybody's going to be getting their positions back of where they were.
Yeah, again, like I said, I don't know how I would really call that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would, maybe a warning. I would say at the very least a warning.
Or at least have the
But-
gap closed up by the time you come off at turn 4, maybe. Rather than have that amount of space when you're coming into the tri-oval. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of downshifting that takes place in that as well, because when you're clutching, you're usually in 4th gear, so you got to downshift normally to 1st gear if you're up at the front, 2nd gear if you're middle of the pack. That also leads to a lot of the stack up. As we are back green. And Chris Emery, who was on the outside of the front row, was able to find a space down in between Jeremy Jeffries and Denny Carroll. Now he'll shoot up to the outside line, and does anybody go with him? Doesn't look like it.
Left out to dry.
Denny Carroll will now move to 2nd, Randy Waugh
Luigi.
into 3rd. Donnie Garrett going to move into 4th, Hagel into 5th. Chris Emery's going to have help coming in the form of Nofsker. Question is, though, does Nofsker push the 000? Does he jump to the 3rd lane? 'Cause he's got a big run here. He's going to tuck in behind the Blue Angels Ford. And all of a sudden, a number of drivers have jumped up there, even in front of Emery. That's Makarski and Graham McDonald. So we got ourselves a 2nd lane starting to move around the 6th position.
Who will be the first person from that inside lane to jump up?
If anybody. I mean, you talked about the fact that right now we're looking at about a can and a half of fuel these drivers would have to take on the final pit stop. Might want to take the shorter way around the racetrack. Might not want to be that lead car, consume a lot more fuel than the drivers behind you. But Donnie Garrett, he has led the most laps so far this evening. He wants to get back to the point. He jumped up to that 2nd lane. He's going to get to the right rear of Jeremy Jeffries. Might be alongside him. By the time we get through 1 and 2, is 41 really pushed up there on the entry of the corner.
Man, we've seen a lot of that tonight, man. That is
You also got to watch the apron doesn't help
getting me
either.
uncomfortable, honestly.
The apron doesn't help either.
No. Pat Makarski now going to clear for 2nd place. Here comes the 3rd line. Ooh, Makarski going for the lead. From the bottom to the top on Donnie Garrett.
Let's check. Wow, what kind of accent was that?
I'm not even honestly sure what word you were going for.
Boy, that was
you know what?
Kelly Causey
I
way in
don't
the
even
back.
remember.
Almost lost a good save back there.
So, a little birdie told me it's fluctuating between a can and a can and a half. So this should make this final pit stop very interesting with how much you take if they get it on the green. But let's look back, as I was trying to say, Jesus. As I was trying to say, and see if we have any stragglers back there trying to hang off the pack.
Well, Tim Nofsker's about to be a straggler. He got left out to dry.
Straggly.
There's Bob Dixon. John Godfrey, who had that hard hit into the
Gilbert.
outside wall. Yeah,
Gilbert.
Gilbert Godfrey. Looks like everybody here back to 35th is all
Problem
good.
with their daughter.
You do that too well.
I didn't even try.
Wow, I'd be scared to know how good it is when you try.
Yeah, really. That. Michael, have you ever thought of taking up voice acting?
No, I have not. Though I thought about it before. I feel like I could. Put some more emphasis on some of the shows that I watch.
Nofsker trying to lead that 3rd line. Got some playoff drivers in that lane with him. Chuck McClure in the 17. Grant Wesley down in the middle line. Rodney Sullins further left on the inside in the 38. Actually got quite a cluster of playoff drivers right here. Add in the 39 of Josh Metallic, the 74 right there of Dunn LaPrade. Ulysses Sandoval, not that far back behind as well in the 96. I mean, the points in the playoffs really close. Only 36 points separating Brian Schilling from Kelly Causey. That's 1st to 13th, so you can make up 36 points in the span of an entire race. Man, Joe DeSpirito, we see that middle line be so strong when you have drafting help, but when there's nobody, it becomes the proverbial sucker hole, and he's starting to go back. Nofsker going to force his way up to the outside of Chris Emery as well. Going back to your point there, Michael, as well, of the fuel fluctuating between a can to a can and a half, in order to make it on a can of fuel, these drivers, their target lap would be at the completion of lap 56. If they have to pit any sooner than that, they're going to have to take on a can and a half. They wouldn't be able to make it.
Question now is, do you push it all the way to that point? Or do you try to get a group of friends to short pit?
Honestly, if you're almost certain you're going to have to take a can and a half, I say short pit. Come down with a smaller group of cars that you trust rather than coming down with a big cluster of cars at the very last minute. Whoa! Nofsker's on a mission. Gracious. He's darted top. He's darted middle. Now looking for a spot in Ulysses Sandoval. Joe DeSpirito going to be his wingman there. As the defending champ trying to fight his way up to the front. Ooh, Brian Rawson, I think he got the apron right there. And he nearly spun out on his own. Oh, that's an uneven bump!
Oh, wow.
Gracious!
Well, that 000 car is way out of shape there. Got
Yikes.
into Chuck McClure again.
How did he
Gonna
save that?
That's going to break up that back of the
That was a
pack
hook in
little
the
bit.
right rear. That should have at least been bumper grab, and he should have shot up into the outside wall. I don't know how he kept that thing going.
You've seen that so many times already tonight. That is incredible.
Goodness. And by the way, folks, that was back around the 20th position. We've been focusing a lot up here at the front, but that's the mayhem that's been going on all through the field, whether you're up in the top 10, back in the mid-20s, even back at the very tail end of this pack. It has been hot and heavy ever since we went green.
Where's that 4 car at?
Yeah, actually, let's find out where the 4 and the 43 are, because remember that caution saved them. There's the 43.
Well, the 43 is up here, but where's the 4?
He's 23rd, Brian 27th.
Okay, as long as they still got a shot.
He's still there.
Brian, come on, man. Don't let us down. You got to keep your streak alive.
So I'm trying to quickly do the math in my head, Michael. You brought up that scenario about, maybe coming to pit road short pitting. Maximum you can go on a can and a half of fuel is 15 laps. So I'd say if you're in the short pit strategy camp, you're probably thinking about coming to pit road somewhere around lap 51, lap 52.
I guess we'll find out, which is about
5 laps away?
five
Yeah.
to 6 laps, yeah.
Is somebody up ahead of these guys? Yeah, I thought I heard an idling engine. Bob Dixon. And speaking of Bob, here's Bob Seminara. Trying to make his way around the outside, looking for his first win on the season. Seminara missed out on the playoffs. He's 16th in overall points coming into tonight. Trying to become the 8th different winner on the season. And look who he's got behind him. Lined up nose to tail, quartet of playoff drivers. Metallic, Sullins, Wesley, and LaPrade.
And that line has the momentum right now. Seminara out front, and now Metallic clear to second.
Seminara going to jump to the bottom here. I think that's going to lose him the lead.
I'm surprised by that move.
Yeah, picking up Donnie Garrett. I know Garrett's unofficial teammate. Donnie Garrett, a member of what we call the Florida Gang, along with Seminara and Joe DeSpirito, Bernie Mobbs. But the momentum was up in that middle groove. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure why Bob jumped down to that middle line, but they're charging back.
Florida's a very
The 39 to
popular
38, almost equally painted, or similarly painted, those two. And I said the word almost.
Third line starting to move. They've only got 3 cars up there, though.
Can these
Spirito,
guys keep-
Sandoval, and Causey.
Can these guys keep that 88 behind them?
I mean, that's been a question that RTG drivers have asked since the dawn of time.
Metallic leads the lap.
If they keep him behind him here, good luck keeping him behind him once the pit stop cycle is complete. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Grant Wesley is one of the best in terms of maximizing track position with execution on a green flag pit stop. I don't know where he gains his time. I don't know if it's a combination of entry, pit road itself, and exit, or if it's one of those particular areas, but it always seems like he could be running in 10th position before they come down pit road, and he comes out, cycles around, he's in the lead. I don't know how he does it, but it always seems like pit road is where he makes up a ton of his time.
Now, Seth, here's a question for you. In the middle, you're just in the middle of this pack 3 wide everything. When do you start getting frustrated about not having a place to go? When does that frustration set in?
I would say you start getting frustrated now if you're planning on the short pit strategy, because we're getting to those target laps, right? 51, 52. Was that Rawson back there?
It was the 10. The 10 almost got into Jessica.
Terry Bombard. That checked up. The 6.
Coming up on another slower car here.
I believe that's Tom Dixon in
3
the
wide
45.
for
No,
the
it's John
lead.
Godfrey. Oh, no. They're going to be 4 wide here through 3 and 4, and it narrows up off the final corner.
Gilbert.
This is not going to be good.
3 wide. People are pitting. Here they come.
Okay, they all got by him. He almost was in the wall to let them by, but good job by everybody getting through that. And here comes that group you were talking
First
about.
round.
Donnie Garrett, Randy Waugh,
Luigi.
Denny Carroll, Greg Lovell, Ron Hagelin,
And
Robert
all these guys
Breedlove.
are taking a cannon. All these guys are taking a can and a half.
Yep. The window's open to be able to make it the rest of the way on that can and a half of fuel. Do we see more make the dive this time by? That was a pretty good number of cars there. Not too many, but not too few. About maybe 10 drivers. They should be able to make good time if they all don't get a speeding penalty and they all come off of pit road together.
So
Do we
Seth, you called it, and I'm going to say it now. Little Birdie said people are getting frustrated because they're stuck on the outside lane and they want to come down pit road.
Comes a group. Nofsker, Schilling, McClure, Emery,
Only
and
a group of
Paglia.
4. Only a group. Okay, 5.
80% of that group, all playoff contenders, by the way. Like Ron Hagelin wanted to merge up there in one, which you're allowed to do, but he waited until the back straightaway.
I think his car just pushed up a little bit. I guess we'll see if cars are going to dive down off of third lanes here, because people talk about wanting to pit and being stuck on an outside lane. Well, you know, it's kind of your fault for going in that position.
And you can't pit from that second lane if you're up on the racing surface.
But I think Metallic kind of just did.
Yes, he did. Though he was the lead car there. Whoa! Tom Dixon going to stack him up.
I was wondering about that. I had all the looks of that happening.
He was
there.
right in front of the leaders, too. Terry Bombard, Rodney Sullins. There was another car. It might have been Richard Martin. All got stacked up behind him.
The 43 got involved in that, yeah.
Sullins a playoff contender. That's going to hurt him if this thing continues to trend green.
I was just wondering, do we get through this round of green flag pit stops cleanly? And, well, we got our answer.
Yep. I'm keeping an eye on our scoring as well. It doesn't always indicate it, but this is, in effect, this is the money stop. They wouldn't have to pit any further past this outside of crash damage. As here comes another group, led by Seminara. Don LaPrade, Grant Wesley, Dante Ricky, Joe DeSpirito, Jessica Shelton, Ulysses Sandoval, Greg Palmer, Doug Hewlick, Dennis McCarthy, and Cy Jones were a part of that one. Like, they all got on cleanly. This is where your battle for the lead might cycle around to. Donnie Garrett with the momentum, moving by Tim Nofsker. We'll jump back to where the lead actually is, which right now would be Kelly Causey, making his way through traffic. These are all drivers that have pit, that they're making their way around. And I'm sure they're telling all of them, hey, we're passing you low because they want that ease of access onto pit lane. Oh, we got Spinner up here in turn 4. Is the caution? It is. Yellow is out. That's Greg Lovell.
Oh, and this is going to mess up so many drivers if they're caught a lap down.
This is going to change everything. And you see right there, I think Causey backed off so that way those cars ahead would be on the lead lap. Bernie Mobbs, Jeremy Jeffries, Graham McDonald. We did have some drivers that fell a lap down, so to your point, this is really going to muddy the waters in terms of officiating of who is where. This caution as well, it will be interesting to see how this has to be served, but my scoring is showing the 38 Rodney Sullins, black flag speeding on pit road. And I don't know if you can serve that black flag under caution or not.
I don't know why would the game not let you do that under caution.
Usually if you get a black flag for a green flag pit stop, you have to serve that penalty under green flag conditions. It normally will not allow you to clear it under caution. I don't know why, but that usually is the case. So when everything cycled around, Greg was at the tail end of a pack of 4 that had already made a pit stop. And,
Well,
we cut away from this battle when Garrett got around Nofsker maybe a little too soon. Because Nofsker tries to push the 880 up the track and gets into him.
the 880, I mean, held his line right there.
Yeah. Kept it going.
But it brings out the yellow. Let's take another look at that here too, because to your point, Kyle, it definitely looked like the 880 was holding his line and the 088 was just trying to crowd him up. I'm not necessarily certain why you would be trying to do that when you could just tuck in line behind. But definitely contact made with oncoming traffic. Race officials have to throw the yellow. Fortunate there were only about, what, 2 or 3 cars back behind
Who was
that.
it that made contact with that?
Nofsker.
With him?
And that's a playoff contender, and why that's interesting is if that incident is called on Nofsker, that means he would have to drop to the back for an EOL penalty. And I don't know, 10 laps? Maybe a little south of 10 laps? That enough time to work back up to the front? I don't know. So scoring right now has Dante Ricky as the race leader. He's back a ways here from what we're showing. He's about the 13th, 14th car in line. These drivers up here are on the tail end of the lead lap, and so I believe they would fall into the category of the wave around drivers. Glenn Harris, Rodney Sullins, Robert Breedlove, Mike Mangialardi, Richard Martin, John Godfrey, Greg Lovell, Pat McCarskey, Terry Bombard, and Ron Hagelin. We'll have to see if indeed they are the wave around cars or not.
And we're going to get a restart with less than 10 to go.
Yep.
So while it might not exactly be the last green flag we could see, but it's
possible.
It's going to start being where this is going to be it. Everyone's going to be making the moves they need to make.
Because we don't know officially who the lucky dogs are. We ended up having about a half dozen drivers that were a lap down when that caution flew. So 2 drivers will get the lucky dog, a number of drivers will get the wave around. If the 45 and the 143 are not the lucky dogs, they are going to be a lap down, which pushes that point of no return that we talk about. That pushes that 1 lap earlier, which would be at the start of lap 62. So, to your point, Michael, we'd be looking, what, maybe 6 laps that we would have until we would end up hitting that point of no return probably when the restart comes out, something like that, 6, 7 laps?
62. So, probably about that, yeah.
This is one of these type of moments where I'm glad that we're up here in the booth and not having to officiate this, try and figure out who has to be where, because it is so difficult when a caution comes out in the middle of green flag pit stops. no matter what type of a racetrack it is, to figure out who's supposed to be where, who's supposed to be a lap down, who's supposed to be on the lead lap. We do know that Dante Ricci is going to cycle as the leader. Looks like the 45 and the 143 are going to get the free passes, so this should, we'll have to wait for scoring to officially update, but this should put everybody back on the lead lap. So that would push the, well, actually, correction, now I'm showing John Godfrey a lap
face
down.
on the lead lap.
Oh, my face is already parked. But this should be your race leader. Dante Ricci with Grant Wesley, Joe DeSpirito, Bob Seminary, Ulysses Sandoval. That should be the top 5 when we go back green. We'll wait and update and see if anything changes here. Top 10 would be Dunn LaPrade, Jessica Shelton, Donnie Garrett, Denny Carroll, and Tim Nofsker. Again, not necessarily certain about the 088 if he's going to have to... Let's focus on him here, because if we're coming to 1 to green, and if the incident was on him, he would have to serve the penalty here, and it doesn't look like he's serving it, so...
Hey, I got a funny thing. So, this coming in from somebody, apparently, Ulysses Sandoval says he's learned all of his hot pitting skills from Josh Mercurio.
My condolences.
Yeah, especially to Jess, who was almost taken out by him.
So, interesting call here, guys, on the 088 staying up here, keeping his track position. If the incident ends up getting called on him... Whoa, where's Ron going? Ronald?
Oh, dear.
Dylan, is this how all the Coca-Cola drivers drive? Is his throttle stuck?
It's the second time we've seen an incident under caution tonight. I don't know what is going on, but...
I guess he's good. But interesting, though, as I was saying, with Nofsker not coming to pit road and serving an EOL or anything, because if that incident ends up getting called on him post-race, that's going to put him last car on the lead lap, and we're going to have, I think, 35, 36 drivers on the lead lap. That'd be a huge penalty that he would take heading into next week. I
got a question, and this is going to be random. Okay? Who in here likes to eat deviled eggs?
I do.
No, I don't.
Okay, Seth, and I guess this is for you. It says, quote, "It's called deviled eggs because the voices whisper and make you eat 25 of them."
Yes, they do. And then you feel horrible afterwards. But I will only eat deviled eggs if you put a lot of the paprika on them.
I'll just give you paprika and say go wild.
Thanks.
Are these the same voices that Randy Orton hears?
That's a good question.
There's your homework for next week, Michael. Report back in a week's time.
Ever get that feeling when you bite into a pizza roll before they cool and get 3rd-degree burns?
Not pizza rolls, because I don't have them very often, but Hot Pockets, yeah.
Hot Pockets!
Yum. Going back green. And we've got green at the front now.
On the front row.
Yes, we do.
And some green behind them.
Ooh, Grant got a good start, but no one behind him.
Maybe too good.
So I've gone all stream without it, which I'm sure you're proud of, but now you're not going to be proud of me anymore. Children are like pancakes. The first one is always a bit weird.
Huh?
Okay.
I've never had a weird pancake. Have you ever had a weird pancake?
Yeah, well, when you make the first pancake you make on a griddle doesn't always get the perfect golden brown look to it. I think that's what it means.
I've never encountered that problem.
Anyways, so we're green.
And we have 4 green cars battling for the lead.
Yes, we do.
And look who's in that inside row all the way in the back. It's that 4 car trying to get up to the front.
Yes, indeed. Brian Schilling. Looks like they have cleared the black flag on the 38 of Rodney Sullins. So the penalty he would have gotten on that green flag pit stop Looks like he EOL'd, and that has thusly
Oh,
served
boy.
that black flag.
Ulysses and Wesley got close there.
Third lane coming. That's Dunlap-Pratt. Now Grant comes up, and there's Dante to block if he can.
Oh, he's not clear. Oh, there they go.
Oh, yep.
Bad block.
One car.
And there,
Nope,
nope,
never mind. There they
nope,
go.
there's more.
But wait, there's more.
And more, and more.
Keep scrolling towards the front. See if the rest of them saved it.
Causey was in it.
Now I wonder, will
Josh
they call
Metallic.
that on? Will they call that on Dante for a bad block?
I would think so. We'll get a chopper cam to look, but it definitely looked like Grant was getting shoved
He was 100% getting shoved.
by Dunlap-Pratt, and I think it was a late block by the 84. Well, we are going to go back green. We know that.
Yeah, we are going to get
But
a
the
restart.
next, after that, the next flag will end the race.
Yep. Nobody will be coming to pit road here outside of those that will be having to get some crash damage repaired. Grant Wesley going to lose a ton of track position from this, and I think his car was actually up in the air for a time as well. I think that right front popped up in the air. Here's a look. Watch the run he gets here with the 74 getting pushed by the 17. Look at that chain bump, and I think Dante moves up just a little too late. The bumpers were not even. Oh!
Oh, man.
Shot to the back end from Terry Bombard.
There's got to be quite a bit of damage on that 88 of Grant Wesley after that.
Double zero of Kelly Causey involved as well. Let's drop back to that area of the field. He and Josh Metallic were collected. Doug Kulik as well. And I think a lot of this might have been in reaction to what was happening ahead, because we had a wreck and then a follow-up wreck. Yeah, Craig Hagley's trying to get down. He gets into Kulik. Kulik gets down into Metallic. They're trying to squeeze a 3 wide past cars wrecking up there in the outside wall. We talked about that aerial shot. Let's take a look at it here. Let's show how this generates. We're going to take it all the way back to the exit of turn 2 and just watch how this all kind of culminates down the backstretch. When the drivers step out of line, how they lose momentum. Grant's going to jump up in front of the 74 of LaPrade. Watch how that draws the 84 back a bit. And then right there, yeah, the bumpers just weren't lined up there. Grant might have been able to move up a little more, but at the same time, Dante was straddling both the middle and the outside line. But at least 3 playoff contenders involved in that wreck there. Wesley getting the biggest hit, but Kelly Causey and Josh Metallic getting pieces of it as well.
Saw Dunlap-Pratt get a piece of that as well. Don't know how bad the damage is on his car.
So I was pointing out an interesting question. Will the 96 get second again? Remember, we had to yell at him before the race went up, before we went on the air, because he came in the wrong car.
He did. Yeah, if you're wondering where Ulysses' number is, his custom number on our ticker, it's not there because he's in the 96 tonight instead of the 096. But at least we can see him. By the way, Dylan cleared it up. He said that the problem with the 111 when he was spinning through the grass is he probably got hit with Pepsi poison.
No, that'll do it.
That
Yep.
sounds like a Pokemon move.
Yeah, Pepsi poison. It's super effective.
No, Yu-Gi-Oh! I summoned Pepsi Man in attack mode.
I summoned CM Punk.
McDonald's sprite attack.
All right, so we might get the 1 to green this time by. Not sure. We'll wait on the Wiley Coat Tribute pace car here.
You know, that still hits hard.
It does. That and Robbie Nices.
Mm-hmm.
Still can't believe they're not in the field. Lights are still on.
Still on.
One more lap at least.
All right,
we
so
should
let's
get a
bring you
three-lap-
up to speed
a
on where
three-lap
you're...
shootout.
So let's
It's going
bring
to
you
be a
up to speed
green
on where
white
you're...
checkered, essentially.
Yep. So let's bring you up to speed on where the playoff contenders are going to be for this final restart of the evening. Ulysses Sandoval is going to be the highest starting of the playoff contenders on the outside of the front row. Donnie Garrett's going to restart in 6th. Chuck McClure in 7th. Nofsker will restart in 12th. Brian Schilling in 13th. Mark Paglia 15th. Craig Hagley will be 18th. Got to all the way down to Dunn LaPrade in 25th. Rodney Sullins 26th. Josh Metallic in 28th. Kelly Causey 29th. Grant Wesley in 31st. And Bob Dixon is, I think, going to be the free pass car here under this yellow along with John Godfrey. This should put him back in the lead lap, but right now Dixon is scored in the 36th position. All your playoff contenders are running, though. And if Dixon does get the free pass, they will all be on the lead lap. We'll give you one last look here of what the playoff standings looked like coming into tonight. How will it change when the checkered flag waves this evening in preparation for next week's elimination race? We whittled the field down from 13 to 8 at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You think the action's been crazy here this evening? Just wait until we get to that elimination race in 1 week's time. Looks like Donnie Garrett's going to wrap up the bonus point for most laps led here tonight, as he's been out in front for a total of 16 laps. Only other driver that's led double-digit laps tonight has been Jeremy Jeffries. He's been out in front for 10 circuits. Joe DeSpirito, when he crosses the line, will have led his 8th lap this evening. 6 laps led by Greg Lovell. 4 laps led each by Dante Ricky and Bob Seminara. 3 turns out in front for Josh Metallic and Kelly Causey. And then the rest of these drivers have led 1 lap apiece. Randy Waugh,
Luigi,
Denny Carroll, Tim Nofsker, Brian Schilling, Grant Wesley, and Dunn LaPrade. A lot of playoff drivers I named right there that at least got the bonus point in the bank for a lap led.
And we're going to have a 2-lap shootout.
green, white, checkered. Now the question is, who's going to provide the better restart, the 9 or the 84?
That's going to be the question, right? Kind of comes down to your pushers and how good you are at timing when the green flag flies. We give the usual disclaimer. We'll do it here and now. If any incident occurs between now and the checkered flag, we will go back. We will look at it post-race or on the final lap, depending on if the caution and when the caution flies. But we will stay up at the front and watch the battle back to the stripe, whether they're racing back to the white flag and the caution or racing back to the checkers if they do indeed receive the white flag.
I don't know. I think this is going to be the week that the 4-car doesn't finish top 5.
Looking at this restart, though, I'm not real familiar with the 84 car, but I do know there's a lot of experience in that 9 car, so who's going to get the better jump here, the 24 or the 96? It's going to be interesting to see.
Honestly, I think you're also looking back at that 3rd row. There's a lot of experience there as well with Bob Seminara and Donnie Garrett. But we've seen a lot of pushing here tonight. We've seen borderline shoving as well. I think we're in full-on shove mode now. Nobody's going to be lifting. Lay that pedal down, line up the bumpers, and hope the momentum is in your line. 2 laps to go here in the first playoff race of the season at Talladega Superspeedway. DeSpirito looking for his 2nd win on the season. Sandoval looking for the 1st win of his RTG career. Here we go. Green, white, checkered. Flagman gets us back underway.
Spirito and Sandoval about even.
Better organized on the bottom, it looks like.
Let's see, if the 24 doesn't get clear, we'll have a good run.
I think he might have barely been clear, but he stayed at the bottom.
With Sandoval for 2nd.
We'll see who gets the run here. The outside line's going to get the run.
Into 3. Double wide, 5 rows deep. Got a 3rd line forming. I think that might have been Nofsker up there on the top with Brian Schilling and others. Ooh, Emery very loose there in the middle. Hangs on to it.
Third lane forming.
Can we get back to the stripe? Remember, it's all the way over here at the exit of the tri-oval. A lot of movement in that middle and third lines. We're going to get back here to the white flag. We're racing back no matter what.
They're organized on that bottom line right now. Spirito clear to the lead.
Oh, there goes
Good help from
Nofsker.
Shelton, and they're around.
Nofsker into Schilling. That's playoff drivers that are not going to finish well, involved in a last lap crash. Caution out, but we're still racing back to the start-finish line. Lot of movement back there with
Big push
McClure.
from the 9 to the 24.
Here comes the middle line, though. Dante Ricky trying to push Sandoval, who's losing ground. He's now back to the right rear of the 9 in second place. DeSpirito clear out in front.
Shelton clear of the 93 of the 96, not yet.
Through the tri-oval, still not clear. Shelton gonna move up. DeSpirito covers. And Joe DeSpirito's going to pick up his second win of the season as they crash across the start-finish line.
Big wreck behind him. Who got third?
I believe it was Sandoval. But we'll wait for scoring to update.
Well, it wasn't second, but if he did get third, that's crazy.
It was Seminara. Scoring saying Seminara by 3 thousandths over Sandoval. And look at the carnage in turn 1. Well, I said that normally, not all the time, but normally a playoff driver wins the first playoff race. Joe DeSpirito, more than likely if he had been able to make all the starts this season, would have been a playoff contender.
Yeah, I was about to say, the way he's been running the last few weeks, I mean, he's been running like a playoff contender. This is the second win in the last, 3-4 weeks?
Last 3 weeks. And he will join Tim Nofsker as a multi-time winner here this season, and that means we're going to get some reverse burnouts. Well, when we talked with him a couple of weeks ago in Victory Lane, he said, man, I hate the fact that I'm not battling for a championship, but man, it really opens up the door for me to be more aggressive and try and win races. We saw that here tonight as he had to throw quite a number of blocks on a couple of different lines there, going through turns 3 and 4. But gonna burn it down here at Talladega, picking up win number 2 of the 64th season of the Talladega Challenge Series. We will go back, we will look at the incidents that both brought out the caution and happened just before the start-finish line. And the streak does indeed come to an end for Brian Schilling. He's going to finish the last car on the lead lap.
Oh.
In the 37th position. Causey's going to finish 36th, Nofsker 34th, Dixon 33rd. If you're looking at a host of drivers that would be in a bit of trouble and maybe in the must-win category next week, I think those 4 drivers might fit that bill.
I think Sandoval was the highest finishing of the playoff drivers, coming in
You would be
4th,
correct.
I believe.
Yep, Sandoval, Chuck McClure, Donnie Garrett, all going to have good points nights. Let's go back, see what happened. First incident occurred over in turn 3. Lot of shoving up on that outside line. Actually, correction, this was over in turn 1.
Yeah, I remember Nofsker was the first car I saw go around here. Oh, he just got down into the 000, I believe that was.
I thought that was going to be the end of the 4-car streak.
Might have gotten bumped in the corner there. Schilling was all over the 088. But I mean, you have to, right? Like, in order to get that third line moving, you have to have the bumpers lined up as tight as possible. You're taking the longer way around the racetrack. Just didn't work out.
And it was a 2-lap shootout. I mean, this is just kind of what you expect when you get a 2-lap shootout on a super speedway.
Big hit into the outside wall for both Nofsker and Schilling, even despite the wreck that took place over in...
Was there contact between Schilling and Nofsker right there? Maybe we should go on board with the 4 and see.
See if we can diagnose that here. Yeah, I think there was a little bit. A little bit of hitbox. Well, Schilling's been doing such a great job this season. 8 straight regular season races that he's finished in the top 5. Add in a victory to that. But here in the playoffs, that luck runs out, and now a driver that really, as we've talked to him this season, has prided himself on consistency. He's going to have to rely, I think, a little more than consistency next week if he's going to advance into the next round of the playoffs. Here's what happened as they were making their way back to the checkered flag. Denny Carroll getting into Randy Waugh. And whoa,
the
Donnie,
77.
Donnie Garrett crossed the line in 8th, but in the air.
Listen, there's no better way to cross the line.
Hey, if you're gonna get a top 10, do it in style, right?
So Clint Boyer tried to do that in 2007 in the Daytona 500. I don't think he got a top 10 on it.
No, he didn't. I think he got 13th, if I remember correctly. Look at this.
Yeah, these cars do not have roof flaps.
Another car caught some air there as well. It might have been Craig Hagley or Grant Wesley. It looked like a white and green machine. I think it might have been Hagley. Oh, no, it was Jeremy Jeffries and Ron Hagley. Oh, no, Hagley caught some air. Most of all this was past the start-finish line, but some drivers did get spun before the start-finish line and might have lost a couple of positions. I mean, if we bring this up here and freeze frame it at the start-finish line.
How's that for a screenshot?
Yeah, here you go. Take a look at this as they make their way around past the start-finish line there, and Brian Rawson, I think, might have lost a couple of spots as he was spinning across.
Yeah, I want to go on board with that 77 car. That ought to be a fun ride.
You think the camera survived? The Ultimate Garage floor is on board. He never lifted.
Wow.
Never lifted. Kept it in the throttle. See what somebody back in the mid-pack would have seen. I think Don LaPrade was back behind all that. What does last week's winner see coming across the start-finish line?
So, Jess's computer decided to update on her, so she gave her interview spot to Ulysses.
Alrighty.
Well, he gained some spots out of that. He
did.
22nd, and then he finished 18th. So,
hey, you know, depending on what happens next week, those 4 points could be very important.
She said that next week we could just interview her pre-race.
Okay. Here's a look at how they all finished. Despirito with the win, Shelton second, Seminara third.
That's a great run for Shelton right there. It's been a rough season from what I've seen.
What was it last week? Her finish was 13th, which I think was her best finish of the season. So she, by leaps and bounds, improves on that tonight.
I know she's happy with that.
Sandoval, as you mentioned, Kyle, highest finishing of the playoff contenders. So he came into this one in the 5 seed, 18 points back. So he could be potentially up in the conversation of being the points leader going into the elimination race. Chuck McClure, who was 4th in points, right behind him, finishing 5th. So might be between those two. Dante Ricky, great run in 6th. Randy Waugh in 7th. Donnie Garrett led the most laps tonight, finishes in the top 10.
Randy Waugh 7th, Luigi.
Yes.
Garrett had the most exciting finish tonight.
He did, that is for sure. Chris Emery brings it home in the 9th position, and Jeremy Jeffries going to complete the top 10. Take a look and see where the rest of the playoff contenders finish. Mark Paglia going to finish in 12th. If I'm not mistaken, I think was Mark one of the drivers that I named that was back outside the top 25 for that final restart. I can't recall, but still a good run for him. Craig Hagley going to bring it home in 15th place. Mentioned about LaPrade when we were on board with him. Jumped from 22nd to 18th, crossing the line with that wreck. And then these are the drivers down here that could be in a little spot of bother. They're certainly not going to be going into the elimination race feeling at ease. Metallic, 25th. Wesley, 27th. Sullins in 28th. Double checking on something real quickly here. Dixon, 33rd. Nofsker in 34th. Causey, 36th. And Schilling in 37th place. That's where your 13 playoff contenders all ended up finishing here tonight. Some with great runs, some with runs that they're going to have to mount a comeback next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Well, that's going to take us into our FRN post-race wind down, and like you said, we're jumping down to 4th place here tonight, dialing up our highest finishing playoff contender. Let's see if we can get a hold of Ulysses Sandoval.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Ulysses, the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yes.
All right. Well, it took me a little bit of time to find you because of the name change, but nonetheless, hey, in the conversation once again for a victory. Unfortunately, you don't come away with a checkered flag, but what you do is you end up being the highest finishing playoff contender. You came in as the number 5 seed. You're going to be sitting in a pretty good spot heading into next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. So my question to you is twofold. Number one,
In the wrong car.
well, that's true too. But number one, how good does it feel to be able to get this finish in preparation for the elimination race? And number two, does it at least alleviate some pressure for next week, or do you still think next week is going to be just as important to finish up at the front?
Well, about nervousness, I don't know. I'm still shaking even after that finished. But for sure, it's gonna help me. For next race, it's gonna be a relief for the next race. But man, I really wanted to win so bad. I was like a little frustrated when my lane was falling back. Then there was 3 wide, and most people stayed single file. Right now, I'm just thinking about what should I done to win this race. I mean, I couldn't clear the bottom lane, which was my target for to if I could win, but I couldn't. I could never clear it, and there was the third lane. Then we were back to 2x2, but there wasn't enough people there. I no, I regret so much of the moves I made today. I was like, if I should have done that, I probably would have a better finish than right now. Guess I'm gonna still have to wait for a win, uh, but I think the next few days I'm gonna be like, uh, I'm good in the standings. I don't have I don't think about that so much because you're good in the standings. Come down, you.
That's a good philosophy, I think.
A 2-lap shootout. You're restarting on the outside of the front row. How nervous are you?
Or even before we took the green, I was like shaking. My leg was shaking like before pressing the throttle. I was trying to time in. I was waiting for that yellow flag, the yellow icon flag, to turn into green so I can float it once and for all. I was thinking about everything. Would I miss? Would I messed up the restart? Would I go late? Would I go too early and get penalized? Or would I change gears so late? Would I do it so early that I would lost my speed? I was nervous, more nervous than when I was, when we took the green, when we were racing. I was thinking about everything before we took the green than when we were in the track, because when we were in the track, it was more about improvised, about what to do.
You know, it's interesting. I was just looking back, and this fourth place finish is your best finish here at Talladega this season. Your 2 second places took place at the track we're going to next week, Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Now, obviously, we've documented this is your first time in the playoffs, and being new driver into the playoff system here in the Talladega Challenge Series, I want to get your perspective looking at this first round. Was there a particular track between Talladega and Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway where you put a lot more emphasis on finishing well? Is it a combination of both? What's the mentality of where your focus was mostly between the 2 different super speedways?
Burn Screwdrivers it's definitely my favorite track. You know, I race here at Talladega Nights, and the Talladega Nights track is a reskin of this track. Then Prime Time, I know this track. That this track is my track right here. So when I actually got in my house, you know, I prepared for tonight's race. I saw, oh, we were racing at the big Talladega. I'm not real good at it. I literally came tonight with my what do you call it, moral down. I was like, what bad thing is gonna happen that's gonna take me out of contention? And it was kind of like that when the first wreck happened. I was, oh man, that's it, I'm done. But it turns out I'm not. So I'm more confident coming for next week. Next week, I know that track. I know what to do on that track. Hopefully, I will take it out on that track. And if everything goes well, you see the human again over here.
Looking to make his first appearance in the round of 8. Gets it off to a good start here tonight with a top 5 run, 4th place at Talladega. By the way, the point standings are updated. You're only 1 point out of the points lead going into that elimination race next week. So congratulations on getting these playoffs started off on a high note, Ulysses. Before we let you go, though, we'll give you the opportunity here for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Oh, I just checked that I'm first. I mean, I'm second. That's good to know. Every time I'm in the chase for the first time, and the first race, I it's actually a trend. Every first chase I'm into, I ended up finishing first among the other guys in the chase. It happened to me on Talladega Nights. The first chase race, I was first. Then and the from the Thursday series, then in the Saturday series, I in the playoffs, I finished the same way. Then on prime time, I did the same on that season, on that last season, last 2 seasons, I believe. I did the same thing, finish in front of them, and then now, hopefully, I will get a better finish. Okay. A big shout out to Mama Sandoval, Mama, a hardworking woman who is sleeping, and I think I should speak a little lower because she's sleeping. And also a big shout out to all my friends, Breaking Ball friends, and NCRI friends. Everybody, a big shout out, and a big shout out to Lil Jess who gave me the spot to have an interview. She gave me the consent. Was basically, yeah, do whatever you can. I don't care, but I take it as a yes. Thank you.
Well, that's Ulysses Sandoval, 4th place, highest playoff finisher in the first playoff race of the season. And as mentioned, he's second in points heading into that elimination race as he'll look to advance in the playoffs next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations on the great run here tonight. Best of luck next week.
All right. See you, Ka. See you, Seth. And Michael, please turn your mic off. All right.
User was moved out of your channel.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, well, Ulysses has exited the building forcefully, and we're now going to jump to our...
I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was done.
I'm sure
Are we
you
running
I'm sure you
short on-
did.
Are we short on time?
We're
all
that
of a
short on
sudden? I
time.
mean,
All right, well, let's see if we can dial up our 3rd place finisher here tonight. Let's get a hold of Bob Seminara.
User was moved to your
Hey, Bob,
channel.
the guys up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
I got a copy. Who are you guys?
Yeah, right. Long time no see. Hey, great run here tonight. You guys were able to get that inside line going, which, you know, normally we don't end up seeing all that often. Normally we end up having that middle line surge ahead, but you guys were able to hold court down on that double yellow line. Was having it just be a 2-lap shootout, was that a big difference, not having those extra laps for the middle line to get organized up? Or do you think it was just the fact you guys were so committed to each other and that second, third line, everybody was jostling for position and not really being able to keep a tight draft?
Yeah, short time there, but we had good pushers. We had Jess, myself, and Chuck behind me. I'm not sure who was behind him, but we were pretty strong there on the bottom. So just trying to hold off the other two lanes. They went three wide, and that kind of shakes things up a little bit for us. So it worked out pretty good there at the end.
Ultimately, you guys were able to be up there at the front for that final restart, but we saw you guys play a strategy, come down pit road a little bit sooner than others during what was looking like going to be a complete cycle of green flag pit stops. Then the caution comes out. How much of a spanner did that throw in the works of your strategy, or was that something you guys planned for and that's why you pitted as early as you did?
Yeah, I actually thought we were going to get screwed on that caution. But then we crossed the line like third and fourth or third and fifth, and I told Joe, just follow Grant. Let's go all the way around, and we got behind all those wave around guys. So we were sitting pretty good there in the top five. So that one actually worked out good for us.
We talk about driver mentalities, especially when the playoffs begin. There's drivers that are focused on points, drivers that are focused on a win to get in the next round of the playoffs, and then there are drivers that unfortunately didn't advance to the postseason. They were out there just looking for checkered flags. With the long time no see, you've had some struggles here this season. Your best finish coming in tonight was 7th last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. So what was the mentality of the driver under the helmet of the 712 here tonight in this first playoff race, since you weren't battling for a championship? Did it give you a little bit of extra incentive to go out there, be aggressive, to be up there battling for this win?
Yeah, this was a rare season that neither Joe or I were in the in the playoffs. So yeah, it was pretty much be more aggressive. I took some personal time this year, missed the race, and with the large field counts, I had 2 bad races wrecked, and then I had damage, and it was hard, and I just missed getting in. But yeah, no, I'm just running hard. I made some moves tonight for myself that I don't normally do, and yeah, it was a good race. I mean, I qualified 24th. That's better than I've been doing. So yeah, it's just more aggressive, and that's what you're going to see in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely had to pass quite a number of cars there at the beginning stages of this race, but up there when it mattered the most, able to bring it home on the podium. Congratulations on your best finish of the season here tonight. Bob, before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mobs Motors, Bernie's Paints, FRN, you guys, RTG, everybody there, the owners, all the admins. I'd like to thank all the sponsors who put the money up for the broadcasts, and it's awesome, the race here, and we got to get back to our winning ways. Shadow's on Fire, FTMF, and to the boys and the Q. And we'll see you next week.
That's Bob Seminara, 3rd place here tonight, his first podium appearance of season 64, and he'll look to continue that momentum next week when we head to Burnt Screwdrivers Race. But congratulations on the great run here tonight, Bob.
Thank you. Have a good one, boys.
Bob Seminara, 3rd place finisher, and yeah, I actually looked here, he was talking about 24th place, the random qualifying draw, setting him there on the starting grid, better than what he's had in the past. I actually looked in these, including tonight's race, in these first 9 races, average qualifying position of 30th for the 712. So he's had not a lot of luck when it comes to the random draw, and he's had to pass a lot of cars during the course of this season. Let's see if we can now go down to victory lane, our second multi-time winner of the season. See if we can dial up Joe DeSpirito.
User was moved to your
Hey Joe, it's the guys up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
Got you guys. How you doing?
Well, when we talked with you a couple of weeks ago down in Victory Lane, you said, man, I hate that I missed out on the playoffs, but boy, it gives me a lot more incentive to be aggressive, get up there to the front and try and snag some checkered flags. You're back in Victory Lane here tonight, but had to keep them at bay. You had 3 different lanes barreling down on you there in that final green-white checkered.
Yeah, yep. When it comes down to the end like that and you only have so many laps left, people seem to kind of get desperate and go 3rd lane. So usually that bottom lane takes off. But there was a chance for that middle to a couple drivers in the middle to come down a couple times during the last 10 laps there. And, it just kind of worked out to where I stayed bottom and it opened up. Same thing as 2 weeks ago at Talladega.
So I was talking just moments ago there with your teammate Bob Seminara. You guys work together a lot at these super speedways, and I asked him about the timing of that yellow flag right in the middle of green flag pit stops. He said he thought it was going to mess you guys up. Did you think that as well? And when the call was made to come to pit road, was it with the thought that maybe a yellow flag would come out, and with you guys making a pit stop, you guys would cycle up to the front when it mattered the most?
Well, I was in the third lane when people started pitting, so I just eventually found a hole and figured I would be the last group to pit. There wasn't really much strategy into the timing of it. It just kind of worked out. When we crossed the line after we came out of the pit road there and it was yellow, I came out and I was sixth. And he was telling me that he thought we got screwed there, and I wasn't sure. So we drove around, and I'm telling him I'm sixth, and it kind of worked out. We weren't sure who was in front of us, but most of the people that were in front of us were lap down cars that were taking the wave around. So we ended up restarting third and fourth. So it ended up working out. Usually when you stay out that late, you kind of get screwed, but that time it worked out for us.
So one thing about drivers that don't end up making the playoffs, we end up calling them X factors because they can definitely play a huge part into who's going to eventually advance, who's going to get knocked out when we get to elimination races. And we've had some big name drivers that weren't in the playoffs this season, yourself amongst them. Were you approached this week or tonight by any playoff contenders saying, hey, I'll push you up to the front. I'll help you be able to get a victory because I'm looking for some good points. I mean, did you get approached by anybody with that kind of a scenario here?
No, not tonight. No, I just was going, checkers or wreckers with my guys, making moves that I don't normally move or that I don't normally make. Third lane.
Were they $1 million moves?
Absolutely.
Hey, they paid the big bucks.
Yeah, blocking the third lane, jumping low, middle, trying to get the spots where I don't normally get to. Nothing to lose, and I don't know. It just I kind of race better when I don't have the points in my head, and again, it worked out. Just guns blazing.
So I don't want to put pressure on you, but I'm just kind of looking at the stats and everything here. The last time we had a driver go to victory lane 3 straight times at a particular racetrack was Jeremy Jeffries back at Burns Grabbers Raceway, and that was about 5 seasons ago. You've got back-to-back wins here at Talladega, so no pressure trying to maybe go for a three-peat in a couple weeks' time when we come back here. But Joe, congratulations on the victory here tonight. Second multi-time winner on the season. Great momentum here after 3 really good finishes in the last 3 weeks. And we'll now give the opportunity before we let you get back to your celebrating in victory lane for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm looking to finish the season strong here, even not being in the playoffs or the bracket series. Just, go crazy here. I want to thank you guys at FRN. I appreciate you guys every week. RTG and the admins on Thursday night here. I want to thank some of the sponsors, Race LM, Ultimate Garage Floors, the Dixon Bros, Mark Paglia. I want to thank everybody watching at home, my family. I want to thank my buddies at work, Elsie, Dan. And, that's it. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Well, Joe DeSpirito picking up his second win of the season here tonight. We got treated to the reverse burnouts, and he will look to continue this momentum, riding his 3rd straight podium finish here of season 64. Congrats on the great run. Enjoy your victory. Best of luck next week at Burnt Screwdrivers.
Thanks, guys. Real quick, I also want to thank Jessica and Chuck for pushing me, and my boys at Mobs Motors all the time. Thank you. Good night.
As Joe DeSpirito, he is your race winner here this
User was
evening.
moved out of your channel.
Becomes the second multi-time winner in the season behind Tim Nofsker, and has an average finish in the last 3 races of 1.33. So that's not too bad. That's some pretty good momentum. And you kind of think about what might have been if he had made the playoffs. No doubt he would be sitting at the top of the point standings, which right now has Chuck McClure, the current points leader. Sandoval, who finished 4th here tonight, sits 2nd, 1 point back. Donnie Garrett, who led the most laps tonight, he'll be 7 back in 3rd. Mark Paglia in 4th, and Grant Wesley in the 5th position. Brian Schilling, the points paid out for regular season championship really helped him with the poor performance he had tonight. He's only 16 back in 6th. Tim Nofsker is going to be sitting 17 points back in 7th, and heading into next week, we're going to be talking about the 8th position in points a lot, because that is the cut line of who's advancing, who is not, and that is last week's winner, Dunn LaPrade, who is sitting in that position. If we're doing the calculations of the drivers behind him, Craig Hagley is 4 points back in 9th. Josh Metallic is 19 points back in 10th position. 20 points back in 11th is Rodney Sullins. 25 back is Bob Dixon in 12th. And then Kelly Causey right now would sit 13th of the 13 playoff drivers. He is 30 points below the cut line, which sounds like a lot and yet is a lot. But when you consider the fact, guys, we've got full fields every single week, it seems, it is mathematically possible that you can still point your way up in. But if you're looking at drivers like Metallic, Sullins, Dixon, Causey, are you thinking about points, or are you thinking about a win in your in scenario next week in an elimination race?
I'd be thinking that far back in points, it's a must win. I mean, you said it's possible, but it's extremely difficult to point your way in with just one race.
So we will be
whittling. I hope you haven't been talking to me. Apparently my mic is off because I've been trying to talk to you.
I did ask a question, though, if you want to answer it, about like those drivers now, like Metallic, Sullins, Dixon, Causey, that are now anywhere from 19 to 30 points back behind the cut line. The mentality of must win next week, or are you still maybe trying to rely on points?
No, it is must win at that point, especially with it being a cutoff race. You've got no choice.
So what about drivers?
You've got to.
So what about drivers up there at the top? Because, Chuck McClure, Ulysses Sandoval, Donnie Garrett, those drivers right now would sit 21, 20, and 14 points ahead of the cut line. That's not a heck of a lot of breathing space.
It's not, especially with the amount of cars that they get in the field, but it's still a little bit of breathing room. I mean, you can breathe. It's not like a hold your breath. So you can breathe. It's just you can't fully, if that makes sense.
Can't let up.
I'd be thinking about bonus points if I were them. Get up there, lead a lap or two. Just get every point you can.
It's a good point. Good
You're
point.
facing the point.
1 point to Gryffindor. But also should mention as well, didn't mention it here tonight, but for those that were interested in the bracket challenge, there's still, this was round 5 of the loser side of the bracket, and Glenn Harris will actually be moving on to face off against Donnie Garrett. He was taking on Tim Nofsker tonight. Doug Hulick will be taking on Ulysses Sandoval next week as he defeats Bob Dixon. So we're in the quarterfinals next week on the loser side of the bracket. The winners of those respective matchups that I just mentioned, they will then move on to face each other, and then they go on to face Mike Mangialardi. Brian Schilling still waiting in the wings to see who it is he's going to face off against when we end up getting to either our penultimate or our season finale at the close of season 64. But a non-playoff driver goes to victory lane here tonight, denies the playoff contenders an automatic golden ticket into the round of 8, so the door is still open for anybody to advance their way into the next round of the playoffs, and we'll find out who those 8 drivers are going to be next week when we head to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Next Thursday night, green flag will fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on FRN. Kyle Michael, great way to start out the playoffs. Some heart-stopping moments here tonight. The action was hot and heavy ever since the drop of the green flag to kick this thing off, and I cannot wait to see how they up the ante when we end up having eliminations next week.
Oh, should be exciting. If it's anything like tonight, yeah, we're in for a show.
Well, thank you all for tuning into our coverage here this evening. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next Thursday night as we continue on the playoffs for Season 64 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. For Michael Norman, Kyle Matthews, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.